Hello, everyone, and welcome to the newest installment of Let's Live in the And, a well-being discussion with me, Shamus Pitts of Pitts Leadership Consulting, LLC, and wonderful people that I know and meet along the way. Today's participant is Jamie. Jamie is from Chicago. She's been in New York City for 3 years. I had the pleasure of meeting her a few weeks ago at an Elevate Network event, which is a professional women's networking organization. And Jamie was so open. She's an Uber connector. She's all about bringing people together, which is why we were attracted to each other that day. And she is passionate about tech equity. And so she's been working in that space for a few years now. So welcome, Jamie.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I'm so happy that you were open to talking with me today. So what is the well-being challenge that you want to share with us?
Yeah, so I feel like the well-being, there's different challenges every year and you're always trying to build, but I think the one topic that really is like close to me is mental health, and with that like dealing with anxiety.
Mm.
So it's something I'm like continuously working on, but it's basically, so I've struggled with anxiety like pretty much my whole life. And not just anxiety like, oh, is this person gonna call me back? And then you like forget about it. Like anxiety where like you cannot like function.
Mm.
Or you're like doing too many things to like make up for it.
Mm.
Um,
Okay.
but it probably took me until I was like, so I'm 25 now. It probably took me until I was like 22 to even like realize that that was a thing. Because anxiety is like a weird thing. It's not always like super apparent that you have something that's not right. You're like, everyone's anxious. Like
Mm.
we're all, especially when I was in college, like we're all trying to like get a good grade. We're all trying to get a job.
Right.
Um,
But when did that start for you, like the feelings of being anxious? And if you can help us understand like what that meant for you.
yeah. So I think when I started realizing it was something that was bigger than just like a normal anxiety was probably when I was like in one of my first relationships after college. And it wasn't even a super serious relationship, but it was something that I was like with a partner, and I was just with that person more than I was with, friends or family.
Mm-hmm.
And so I could really see my anxiety. Like they told me like, I can feel it. Like I can feel your anxiety even when you're not saying anything out loud. And I can tell that you're not moving forward with some parts of your life because you're nervous, or you're doing way too much because you're nervous about not accomplishing goals. And a lot of my anxiety was like really time based. So like, if I do not do this all today, like I'm going to be a failure. Or
Mm.
like, if I don't apply to 40 jobs today, like I'm just not going to get a job. Instead of like being rational where it's like, okay, let's break this into pieces. And like, you're going to get a job. I don't know when it's going to be.
Mm.
Um, and so it led to me like, there was kind of two spectrums. Sometimes something would make me so anxious that I like just wouldn't do it. Like, um, there's this event going on and I'm too anxious to even like figure out who's all going to be there and if I have time to talk to everybody. So like, I'm just not going to go. Or it'd be the complete opposite spectrum where I'm like, I have all these things to do. I'm going to do them all today. So I'm going to work all through the night to get them done.
Mm. Okay.
And so really also what made me realize is I journal a lot. And so reading some of my like prior journal entries, it was like, wow, you were really thinking like crazy. Like you were overreacting about this thing. That one example is I remember one of my first jobs that I was going to get, they said I had to do a drug test and I hadn't done drugs like before. So why would I not pass the drug test? And I like couldn't sleep because I was like, what if I like, I don't know, smoked a cigarette and like there were drugs in it, like it was like really like messing with me. And so, yeah, it took me a while to like realize that that was actually something that was affecting me.
Who did you talk to about it other than that person in your relationship? Like, had you ever talked to somebody about how you were feeling before?
Not really, to be honest. It just felt like it was like my own thing I had to figure out, which now I don't think is the case. But I think with something like anxiety, and I don't know, other people might feel like this if they have anxiety, you kind of think like everyone has this. So I'm not going to burden people with like what's troubling me because they're going through the same thing. Which like is true in a sense. Yes, everyone's having anxiety, but like since mine was at a level that was a lot higher, like I could have confided in someone, but I just thought they were going to be like,
Mm.
okay, I'm going through that too. Um, but after kind of figuring out this was an issue, I started seeing a therapist, and that's when I could actually like talk to someone about it
Mm-hmm.
and break down like what is a normal reaction and what was an overreaction.
And how did that support you?
It was awesome. So like I started going to therapy. I talked to them for a while. Um, After a bit, and this is so different for everyone, so I would never encourage or not encourage this, but I started taking medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that really helped me, to be honest. So I started taking medicine for anxiety, but I paired that with also seeing a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
And like taking medicine allowed me to kind of like not mellow myself out, but be able to like decipher what was a normal anxiety and what was a little too much.
So how would you characterize how that feels in your body for you? Your normal anxiety versus too much.
Yeah. So now, um, now that's a little bit easier for me to see, and I'll explain. Flash forward, I'm actually not taking medicine now. I'm like all just going to therapy and eating right, and I do a lot of herbalism. But so what I can explain now when I feel anxiety is, for example, yesterday I told my boss I was going to get something done by Monday, and I didn't get it done. And she stopped by my desk and was like, "Hey, where is this?" And I was like, "Oh, I didn't finish it yet." Back in the day, if that were to happen, I would not go to my yoga class after work. I'd go home and be like, "I'm going to get fired. Like, I didn't do the thing I told her I was going to do by Monday. Like, I should just do it now. Let me just start doing it now." And I would start doing it. I would probably email my boss at like 9 p.m. and be like, "I did the thing that that you asked me to do." And then I would probably not sleep all night because I'm worried that I'm going to get fired.
Mm.
Whereas now I was like, yeah, I should have managed my time better. And I wish I didn't tell her that I would have got it done by Monday. But she's going home right now. It's 5 p.m. So there's no point in me doing it now. I'll do it first thing in the morning. And
Mm.
that's that. Like, so I think having that initial like nervousness is fine. Like if you don't have that, then that might be another issue too. Like you should feel nervous sometimes, and can feel anxious about deadlines, but it's
How
like
do
taking
you make
that
the
back.
distinction? I know I'm inserting
No,
myself.
you're
I'm really
fine.
curious here. How are you making the distinction between how it feels to be nervous in your body with how it feels to be anxious?
And I think that's a really hard thing because without figuring out I had some issues with anxiety, I don't know if I'd be able to make the distinction because I would think that how I was reacting before was just like the normal way.
Hmm.
I think how I'm able to make the distinction is having severe anxiety, then seeing a therapist, taking medicine, getting off medicine, and now looking back, I'm able to see and rationalize like what is normal and what
Okay.
is a little irrational.
So what happens for you today though, if you're in that moment?
Yeah. So it's still it's still a lot of work. Like
Okay.
it's something that and I think this is with any mental illness. I mean, that's a harsh way to put anxiety, but it's kind of what it is sometimes. It's not like you take medicine or go to therapy and then like that's it. Like you're never gonna feel it. Um, so I could still it still could get to an extreme level if I let it, but I think now I have the tools that if something is making me anxious and it keeps replaying in my head,
Hmm.
I need to stop and think about it. Sometimes I write down like what the thought is, what my feeling is about that and how I feel about that feeling. And then I kind of decipher, like, if that's,
Hmm.
I think it's called CBT techniques.
Okay.
Um,
Cognitive behavioral therapy.
yes, yes, that's what it is. Um, so I'll do that sometimes,
In the moment?
in the moment.
Okay.
And if I don't have time to do that, or like, I'm like talking to someone and I can't like whip out my notebook, what's really helped me is to just think like, is spending your energy thinking about this, like, is it helping? There's some situations it might be like you're thinking a little bit harder about it and you find the solution, but a lot of the time it's not. Like, me continuously thinking if my boss is going to fire me is not going to do, it's just making my night horrible. Like, I missed my yoga class, I like am not getting sleep, and it's going to go into the next day. So I think just stepping back and thinking about, like, is having this negative thought going to help me in the end? If it's not, then like tame it down a little bit.
That's great. So those are two very clear tools, practices that you use to support yourself. Are there any others, or are those like your primary go-to?
So when it comes to like thoughts, those are my go-to. A third one would also, now that I actually do reach out to people I trust when I'm having trouble, is in this won't always work depending on who you're asking, but sometimes I'll explain the situation to them and like ask if they think it's rational how I'm acting.
Hmm.
Why I say grain of salt is like the person that you're talking to might also be struggling with anxiety. And so like they might amplify it. So like I'm careful with who I'm talking to about these
Yeah,
things.
that makes sense.
Um, and then more like this kind of goes into physical well-being, but I'm really into nature and herbs. So I have a lot of herbs that I use, like passion flower or kava or just green tea that
Mhm.
I will like mix up in the morning to calm me down a little bit.
So
Uh,
you'll mix those three things together in a
yeah, so I
tea?
have like a whole drawer of herbs that I use. So those are the three that come to mind. But oh, lavender as well. So
Ah,
yeah, I just put them in like a little infuser and make tea with them. And I'm also a gardener, so like growing plants makes me really happy. Like seeing green when I wake up is really amazing. So those are like some smaller tangible things that I use.
yeah, that's wonderful. I appreciate that you brought that into this space, that it's like there's so many components to well-being, and how you are able to look at the harmony of all these things that can support you.
Yeah. Well, and I also think too, like I'm like pretty like hippie. And so like taking medicine was not something I actually really wanted to do. Um, I do think it helped me, but I knew that taking it, I didn't want to take it forever. So I wanted to come up with how I was gonna like wean off that and what I was gonna do in the meantime. So things like teas and different herbs were really helpful to me. Um, so I think like that was good going in. Like I had a plan to not take these things anymore.
You had a plan before you started about what you wanted to do.
Yeah, and like that's just me. Like when I would talk to my therapist, they were like, I mean, you might have to take these forever, and like, what's the problem? And like, I mean, that's fine too. I just didn't like, I don't know. I'm weird. I'm always like, if I want to live in like an island somewhere and don't have access to these things, like, how am I gonna deal with this? And so, like, that's
I
kind of what I
don't
go
think
into
that
thinking.
makes you weird. That makes you you, and you get to choose what works for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there's something just really beautiful about like using nature to kind of calm yourself. Like, I don't know, just looking at it holistically, you're like, this is like a root that came from the ground and it calms my anxiety. Like,
Yeah.
there's
Talk to me
something
about
about
your
that.
garden. Yeah. Talk to me about how your garden supports you.
Yeah, so there's two different pieces. Like having a garden, one can actually help me grow the things that I use to calm my anxiety, like lavender and mint. But that's a small piece of it because a lot of those things like I have to buy because I live in New York. I don't have a huge thing. But I feel like planting and gardening and growing gives you a sense of like creating.
Mm.
Um, so it's almost like an art form. Like it's something that calms you down when you're like watching something grow. Um, And I feel like in a place like New York where you don't always have access to like beautiful nature, being able to like provide that for yourself is something that is really good for your mind.
That's great. I'm curious, is that a practice that you had like before? Like when did you connect with the gardening?
Yeah, so um not really. Like I remember growing up, my mom had a really beautiful garden, but like I never appreciated it. Like I just thought like those flowers just grow here, like not knowing all the work she put into it. But about a year ago, um, so I use this app called couch surfing where I let people from like around the world like sleep on my couch for free. Um, Another story, but through that I met this guy named Sydney, who's one of my dearest friends now, and he runs a space in Haiti where he's from that's like all basically sustainable farming. And so I went to visit him last year and just helped him plant and just basically hung out in this like amazing oasis he has. And I just felt so good there that I wanted to bring that when I came back here. A little harder in New York, but in this place, I actually have a backyard. So like once I got that backyard, I was like, I got to do something with this. So yeah, that's like a new thing. That was probably the past like year and a half.
Wonderful. High fives on that. That's awesome. So I told you I use my hands a lot. So
I know. I'm like trying not to shake the computer.
as I like knock into this thing. Okay, so I'm curious, how has integrating these practices to support your well-being, your mental well-being, how has that carried over into how you are leading at work in the things that you're up to, or leading in other domains?
Yeah, definitely. So I think once I got more comfortable, well, it's actually interesting because anxiety in some parts has actually helped me be a better employee because I think I'm like, so before it gets unhealthy, for the healthy part of anxiety, like I'm like really on top of my stuff because like I'm nervous about getting it all done. So like I'm really good at like scheduling and having calendars and following up with people. And so I think in that way, like having something that's like not the best, whether it's anxiety or even like depression, if you understand it, like you can use it in ways to be productive. But then there's that level, of course, when it becomes unhealthy, and then that's not good. So there's that. And then there's also the piece of once I was able to figure out anxiety and be healthier, it's led me to be a lot more like playful
Mm,
because everything isn't like do or die anymore. It's like I'm going to do the best I can, but I'm also going to do things that make me happy. And so I think with my work, I'm just a little more like if someone else is stressed out, I'm able to like kind of be more fun and playful and like, hey, this isn't the end of the world. Like, let's figure out what we need to do. And like, you're not going to get fired, like, because other people are dealing with these things too. So, um, I think, yeah, it's definitely on one end helped me be an organized human, but dealing with it has helped me to be a lot more like playful at work.
yeah, thank you for that. That's a great nugget that you're able to, because you've been on the other side, but you now have practices that support you, you can then support other people.
Totally. And like it's even like what we were talking about before this recording about like the sense of urgency everywhere. Like have being able to like deal with anxiety has made me realize like what is actually things that are urgent and like what is not as urgent.
Yeah,
And so having that mindset when I'm working with other people has helped me able to like work with them better and prioritize and also like yeah, do good work because we're not like rushing everything. We're like trying to create and also hit deadlines.
wonderful. Thank you. So what would you say is your biggest like aha learning moment from this journey that you've been on the past couple years? Now that you acknowledged it, you identified like, oh, I have something I get to work on. You've pushed through, you got support, you develop practices, now you're supporting other people. Like, what's the big learning takeaway for you?
Um, what is the big learning takeaway? So trying to think. what would be the biggest one? I mean, there's probably a few, but
Yeah, you can share a few if a few come to mind.
yeah, I would say one is you're a lot healthier and you also create better work when you honestly don't take life so seriously. And I think that, like, I think I've always had the notion before I like kind of struggled with this or realized it was an issue that like hard work is only if you're like doing all the things when you like that you have on your list and you're like working 80 hours and like you're climbing that ladder, but like you can still climb the ladder and be a successful human even when you're like taking a break and not doing everything on your to-do list in like one day. And I think I'm a better like employee because of it too, because I'm just like happier and you're more creative when you're happier. um so I think that would be a big piece. The other thing is not to be so quick to judge people. I feel like there's got to be times when I was struggling with anxiety at work that like I may have been like snappy or just like head down because I couldn't like deal with people. And I think I'm better. Like, I don't know what anyone's dealing with. So if someone's like a little snappy or not getting something to me on time or what have you, like it's a conversation because I know what it's like.
That's wonderful. And I think that can help a lot of people because we are in such a frenetically paced world right now where so many things are on demand. Being able to recognize that other people may be having challenges that you're not aware of.
Yeah,
You may have shown up before, but now you're giving people space, recognizing that they may be where you were before. I think
definitely.
that's really powerful. Wonderful. This has been great.
Thank you.
So much, Jamie, for being so open and honest
Yeah, of course.
with your journey. I really think there's so much power in sharing, especially the things that are part of what makes us, the unique us, that can be being open about and being vulnerable about those things. I think it's really wonderful. So
Yeah,
I'm so grateful that you shared this time with me today.
of course. And yeah, I hope more people share like mental illness is so taboo and like it shouldn't be because like we're all dealing with stuff and like we just got to talk about it and like we'll figure it out together.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, definitely. Fabulous. Thank you so much to Jamie for joining today, and thanks to you for checking in and listening to Jamie's story. Please engage with me at shamis2020.com for more content. That's Shamis, that's SHAMIS2020.com. Subscribe to my newsletter, like my stuff. We're in this together. Let's live in the and. Take care.
thanks.